All right, welcome into KC Sports Tonight. Katie Marr, Marlia Campbell. Lots to talk about because we found out something that might have a pretty big impact on the Chiefs game this Monday night, and that is Jaden Daniels may be out. We're hearing reports from NFL Network that he's out with a hamstring injury that he suffered against the Cowboys on Sunday. Marlia, how do you think it's going to affect Monday
sounding
night?
like he's not going to go. NFL Network saying he's expected to miss, and given the fact that it's so early in the week, I would say we can go ahead and bank in that, early in the week being a Monday night kickoff. It'll be Marcus Mariota starting under center for Washington, which, if that kind of gives you a prick in your spine if you're a Chiefs fan, it's because he started for the Titans in 2018 when, the Titans came back from, I think they were down 18 at halftime and ended up knocking the Chiefs off, upsetting them at Arrowhead in the playoffs. So, Chiefs are double-digit favorites. I think it went up a point today with the announcement of the Daniels injury, because yesterday Dan Quinn said it wasn't super serious, and so I was kind of thinking maybe that is trending towards him playing, but yeah, sounding like a no-go. So I think it's an 11.5 point spread right now, but you never know. Chiefs didn't get out of Sunday against the Raiders uninjured either. Trey Smith left with that back injury, Jawan Taylor with a shoulder issue. Still no sign of Josh Simmons dealing with that personal issue, although Jalen Moore is playing really well, stepping in that position nicely. So if he goes again this week, I think the Chiefs have all the confidence in the world in him. But definitely some injuries we're going to be following this week and keeping an eye on as we get into kind of the back half here.
Yeah, and that's not really something that we worried about going into the Raiders game. The Chiefs were pretty much healthy all across the board. They were one of, if not maybe the only NFL team that could kind of say that. I actually heard Mitch Holthus saying that on the pregame broadcast before. Maybe that jinxed them. I don't know, Mitch. But how much of a worry do you think there should be on the injuries across that O-line?
Yeah, again, something to keep an eye on, especially with, Trey Smith's the highest paid guard in the history of the NFL for good reason. That was a back tweak, so, those can go either way. Usually Wednesday is our big day of the week where we hear from Andy Reid, we hear from Patrick Mahomes, and we get our first round of injuries on the injury report, who's limited, who did not practice, who's a full participant. Everything is shifted back a day this week, so tomorrow will be our big day in seeing who's limited, is everyone a full go. But, it sounds like a cliche at this point, the next man up mentality. The offensive line has had to step into that, especially with, obviously Josh Simmons and his absence for the last 2 weeks. But that's why you brought in a guy like Jalen Moore. Now it could be Wanya Morris's time to get into the rotation a little bit more. He has experience from last season, so we'll see. But, so far, even as they've dealt with those injuries, the offensive line really has been, I think when you're not talking about them, that's a good sign. And that's kind of, what we saw against the Raiders.
Yeah, and Josh Simmons being out, obviously, it hurts that depth to begin with because, going into this season, we were kind of like, okay, there's a very low chance that all 5 starting offensive linemen stay perfectly healthy for every game of an entire season. So having a basically 6th starter is kind of an awesome crutch for the Chiefs to have. So now as they go down that depth chart with first Jalen Moore coming in as a starter and now few injuries, and there's a little bit of concern there, but again, we'll know more when we talk to Andy Reid.
Yeah, and that's
tomorrow.
Kind of why you had that insurance plan in place. I think there was some questioning like, well, why do you bring in a guy like Jalen Moore and then go on to immediately use your first round draft pick? Well, here you go. Like, these kind of situations are why. And then on the defensive side of the ball, this will be the first game without Omar Norman Lott. He had, I think, 5 tackles and a sack through his first couple games, but was heavy in the D-line rotation, so he's out for the season with a torn ACL. You add that to Felix Anudike-Uzomah going down with a hamstring injury in the preseason. So we're eyeing the trade deadline. I think you have to have a D-lineman in the conversation there. We'll see how that kind of unfolds. But, yeah, some depth issues early, relatively. There are teams certainly dealing with granted, pretty much every team the Chiefs have faced so far have seemed to be kind of riddled with injuries, as is the nature of the beast. But Kansas City, relatively healthy in the grand scheme of things, should have a better picture tomorrow of exactly what we're looking at.
Yeah, and one place where they're not exactly struggling with depth right now, that's kind of on offense in terms of not the linemen, but the rest of the offense. They finally got all the pieces back in the receiving core. Commanders coming in with a few injuries themselves at receiver. How do you think this game on Monday night is going to play out with, Jaden Daniels obviously probably being out, but Marcus Mariota stepping in? Do you see this being a bit of a shootout or?
Yeah, a big opportunity for the Chiefs secondary, right? I think they obviously looked really good against the Raiders. The
0
first
points.
shutout they've had, and since I think first regular season shutout since 2011 and first shutout period since 2015. So not bad.
Pretty good.
And that's tough. And yes, that's against a Raiders team that's not very good, and that was also injury depleted. But this is still an NFL team that gets paid to show up and play, and to not even give up a field goal. They had 3 first downs all game, and I think 2 of those were on the first drive. So compared to the Chiefs having 30. So, it's another big test for this offense kind of to jive cohesively. I'm curious who's going to lead the way in receiving yards, because it's been interesting who's stepped up in different weeks, right? In Xavier Worthy's return, he had a monster game. Then the next week he had 2 catches for 20 completions, and it didn't matter because everyone else kind of filled those gaps. And, anytime you take away one guy, someone else is going to have a big night. So it's kind of the complementary football we talk about. And Rashee Rice, we found out in hindsight, Andy Reid said he was really trying to limit his snaps and kind of get him in the swing of things. You say about a guy that had 2 touchands and 7 catches on 10 targets, but
just getting back in.
You're right, just kind of dipping his
in.
toe back in. But it'll be fun to see him kind of, now that he has that monkey off his back of the big return, seeing what he can do against the Commanders.
Yeah, for sure. I think Sunday's game was a prime example of like we say, everybody got to eat. That's what the receivers are saying now. Rashee Rice is apparently the one who started that. That's what Tyquan Thornton told me in the locker room after. I think Sunday's game was a prime example of that, and I think we're going to see a lot of that going forward, because when you have multiple stars that could be kind of a wide receiver one on a lot of different teams in the NFL, the stat lines that we saw Sunday are just kind of what we're probably going to see going forward. A lot of guys with 50 yards, 1 touchdown.
Yeah, Travis
40
Kelce
yards,
with a
2
quiet
touchdowns.
40, 50 or so. Yeah.
Travis Kelce quietly led the receivers.
Yeah. Had the big pickup on the first drive, first quarter. Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, 2 guys that have led this team at various times throughout the season. Tyquan Thornton presenting that deep threat that the Chiefs haven't had. This is kind of the most complete offense. We talk about the O-line, yes, the injuries, but O-line, receivers, this is the most complete group Patrick Mahomes has around him. I think your only Achilles heel has been the run game a little bit, which has stepped up. Yeah, kind of an incremental step since the Jags win.
Mahomes was not the leading
rusher. Longer leading the team in rushing yards. That honor goes to Isaiah Pacheco. And Brashard Smith getting a little bit more involved too. So, you and I were talking about this in the office. The Chiefs are 3-4. If the season ended today, it doesn't. If it did, they would not be in the playoffs, and they are the betting odds to win the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Which is just unbelievable. And I think it says, it shows the respect that mathematicians have for how good. I mean, no one gets this isn't a favorite advice thing. This is numbers and money involved, and the Chiefs are the betting favorite to win the Super Bowl. So
people are putting money on this.
Yeah. So I just think that's ridiculous, but it shows the history that Kansas City has and in the exponential steps they're taking since the 0-2 start.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we move on, switch the page to college football, any more Chiefs storylines you want to talk about before this game?
Yeah. Excited to see the injury. Excited. Looking forward to, I guess. Curious might be a better word.
Anxious to see it.
Yeah. To see the injury report tomorrow. Just because of the Trey Smith one is the big thing for me, for him to have left and not come back. If you have your starting left tackle, Josh Simmons, we're still watching that situation. Your starting guard with Trey Smith, and then your starting right tackle with Jawan Taylor. I mean, that's a big hit. So not saying all 3 of those guys will be out. They could all be back on Sunday. We just don't know. So something to watch there. And, I'm excited to hear from Patrick Mahomes, too, for his weekly presser. That'll be tomorrow at 11:45. You can stream that on KCTV5 Plus per usual. But, yeah, there's a lot of optimism in this room, and you're going against another injury-depleted team. So all that to say, with the optimism that we have, they're 4-3, and this is the first week all season they've been above 500. So the margin of error in dropping a fluke game here or there, a game they're favored to win by double digits at home, you don't really have room for that anymore. So just excited to get this week rolling. This is our second Monday night week of the season, and it feels like we slogged through it because everything's pushed back a day. Yeah, so I'm excited to get the week started on a
We're sitting
Thursday.
here on a Wednesday, twiddling our thumbs.
Yeah.
What do we do?
What is happening? Yeah.
Yeah. I think another big part of this game, before we move on, is the fact that this is their last home game until the Sunday before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be home until I think it's the 23rd. Yeah. Again, that's against the Colts, which is also now going to be a huge game because the Colts are maybe the best or one of the best teams in the NFL.
And then you flip it around and play in the most viewed regular season time slot of the season, 3:25 Thanksgiving Day against the Cowboys in Dallas. So, it only ramps up from here. And then you have the Bills kind of on the radar coming up here. And there's just, there is no clear dominant team like you've had in years past. You've seen, the Bills get upset in games that you expected them to win. The Ravens are terrible. Even pre-Lamar Jackson going down, their record was really bad. And now they're, I think, 1-5. They were 1-3 with him and 0-2 without him. So
I kind of love it. It makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
So you want to watch the games.
And it's funny because I think the Chiefs get the narrative of being that Goliath of, the anytime you give ref narratives or, there's always something. And that conversation is around a team that is 4-3 that has been under 500 for the majority of this season. So, makes for an interesting year, and I'm itching to get to the playoffs, but we have a little work to do before then because, again, as of today, the Chiefs are not in the playoffs. Certainly that will change, knock on wood, but, lots of interesting storylines to follow there.
Yeah. From one 4-3 team to another, that's the Kansas Jayhawks against the 3-4 Wildcats of K-State. Sunflower Showdown is on deck for this Saturday at 11 a.m. First time it's been an 11 a.m. kickoff in a hot minute, I think, between those two teams. Usually they would get the primetime kind of slot at 6 o'clock. But I think it'll be fun. Brand new, almost, sort of, kind of brand new stadium. Two-thirds of a brand new stadium, the new booth, as we call it. First time it's going to be played in there. It's officially a sellout, as announced today. How are you feeling do you think this is the most equal Sunflower Showdown in a hot minute?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's the first time KU is favored to win in 16 years, and they're favored to win by 3 points, which you can go ahead and attribute to the home field advantage, if you can even call it that, because there's going to be so much purple in the stands on Saturday. But I grew up in Kansas City, going to a lot of these, and especially the basketball ones, but I went to some football ones too because tickets weren't that expensive. It was a blowout every single year. Yeah, especially in Lawrence. So this was not a competitive rivalry for a very long time. Almost like the Raiders and the Chiefs winning 14 out of 16. It's like, can you call it a rivalry if that keeps happening? But
when we were talking about that last week, that I just kept thinking of KU and K-State football.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
On paper, this makes sense to be a rivalry, but is it?
Yeah.
And we've seen that start to flip in the Lance Leipold era. You think about the Cole Ballard game 2 years ago that, they kind of made it interesting. But KU hasn't really been able to get over that hump. So if there's a year to do it, it's this year. And, I think this is a big game for both franchises. You have a KU team that is obviously has a chip on their shoulder and having a terrible record in recent years in this rivalry. And then you have a K-State team that came in with really high expectations this season. They were ranked 17 in the preseason poll, had a really rough start to the season. And, it's like one of the wins you can check looking back on the year is at least we won the Sunflower Showdown.
Yep.
So kind of an opportunity to get a little redemption and get a little bit of a positive vibe going back in Manhattan. So big game for a lot of reasons. And, these are two teams that are going to be eyeing bowl berths, trying to get to 6. And who knows, the Big 12 is kind of also
the Big 12 is the Big 12.
The Big 12 is the Big 12.
It's Big 12ing.
It's chaos. Must-win game for both these teams, especially as they kind of eye bowl games and, the quality of those bowl games if they go. So lots to look forward to. I'm excited about the 11 a.m. kick. I love it. Yeah, wake up, get some coffee. You're going to be there. I'll be drinking my coffee.
Me and Neil Jones all day long coverage from Lawrence. I think the bowl thing is a huge part here because, when was the last time K-State didn't make a bowl game? I don't know. That's how long it's been. And they only have 3 wins. They have to win 3 more games. And if they don't beat KU, they only have, 4 more chances to get 3 wins? So that's big danger there. And then with KU, easiest path for them is to beat K-State. And then they play Oklahoma State a week or so after. And that's obviously the easiest game on your schedule when you're in the Big 12 as of right now with the way that Oklahoma State has been playing. So if KU gets the win for the first time in who knows how many years against K-State, they're only 1 win away from bowl game, and I think they should easily achieve that. K-State, I think it's a much actually harder path. So this is a huge game for both teams, especially because K-State has just been so kind of kicked down this season. Like you said, with this was supposed to be a lot better than it was. So
Yeah.
this is a huge Sunflower Showdown. I'm excited for it. Neil Jones and I are going to be out there bright and early. Invite us to your tailgates and we'll feature you on TV. All that fun stuff, you know? Yeah. Okay, so Big 12 Media Days. While we're talking Big 12, we also have to talk basketball because we are less than 2 weeks away from the season kicking off, which is kind of crazy. Crossover season is upon us, as we call it. KU men and K-State men both talked today. The women talked yesterday, and Mark Palos had all that coverage yesterday. And today Neil Jones is out there at T-Mobile Center holding down the fort for us. A lot of expectations for KU, mainly because of their star freshman, Darren Peterson. They're coming in ranked 19th preseason AP poll. But that they're only they're not the top Big 12 team that's ranked in that preseason poll. Mm-hmm. How deep do we think the Big 12 is going to be this year?
Yeah, K-State coming in 9th in the preseason poll. KU is in 6th. They're 19th in the country, and they're picked to finish 6th. So I think that speaks to the talent of the Big 12 this year.
Yeah.
On pace to be another, year of debatably the best college basketball league in the country for men's hoops. PJ Haggerty is a name to watch, too, for K-State. Excited to see him. He and Darren Peterson were kind of the conversation storylines of the day of Big 12. So Neil's there. He'll have an update at 6 o'clock. Excited to hear from Jerome Tang and Bill Self. Those two guys. If you saw some of the social media posts of their podiums, they were slammed. You pointed out to me that K-State has an exhibition game in Columbia against Missouri on Friday.
At 9 o'clock at
9 p.m. on a Friday night, which is...
So after high school football, you're in Columbia.
I played college basketball and in the Mountain West, and this time of year is the worst. It's the worst because you can start practicing fully in early October, and you're just going against yourselves every single day. So this is where you start, really getting excited, looking forward to actual games. And in basketball too, you play 2 a week. So like once you start the season, you're either recovering from a game or preparing for a next one. So this is kind of the agonizing part of the year. So these guys are ready to get rolling. I'm excited to see them in action. And KU looking for a big turnaround after arguably the most disappointing season you could have asked for. I mean, going from number 1 in the preseason to on paper the worst team Bill Self has had. Exit. Yeah. Yikes. So big opportunity there, but per the time of college athletics we are in, these are 2 entirely new teams.
Yep.
For better or for worse, and for this year for KU and K-State, it's for better. So excited to see the product they put on the court.
Yeah, and I saw that Jerome Tang called PJ Haggerty. He believes that he's the best point guard in the Big 12 or the country. I think it was the Big 12 though, and that's big of Jerome Tang to say, because I've heard Jerome Tang talk a lot about how much value he puts on point guards, and he judges his point guards in wins and losses. That's why him and Marquise Noel had such a special bond. And then last year, he was they had a little bit of back and forth relationship with his point guard last year, who's no longer with the team now. So I thought that was interesting to hear, because we know that Jerome Tang is very hard on point guards. So I'm excited to see if PJ Haggerty does kind of live up to that. That's, I think, a big for Jerome Tang to say. But DeJuan Harris Jr. is no longer in the league, so I guess because you can start saying stuff like that now.
Yeah.
But I'm very excited about the Darren Peterson Flory Budunga connection. I think that played a big role in Flory coming back, because he was possibly going to transfer in the offseason. And then obviously NIL plays a role in it too. We don't know the exact details of that, but I'm excited to watch the 2 of them kind of work together. What are you the most excited about when it comes to college basketball season?
Yeah, I feel like especially in college basketball, there's so much unpredictability. Take like KU being preseason number 1 and then falling out of the top 25 for the first time.
Which I think is a curse.
Yeah. So excited to see kind of the actual product on the field. KU is in uncharted territory with the new point guard for the first time, and I don't know how many years DeJuan Harris ended up playing there. I covered him in 2022, I think, when he was a sophomore or junior. Was it 6?
I think it was 6 years.
Seasons or years? Stretch? Really? Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah, because he was kind of one of the last remaining, of the COVID extra year and kind of that whole mess of eligibility and whatever that was. But
Yeah.
so, new slate for Bill Self, who also relies on his point guard. It's kind of the Mahomes-Andy Reid relationship that he's had with Dwan Harris, won a national championship with him in 2022. So, and it'll be interesting to see how, Bill Self's teams have had trouble since the NIL era. This is a program that historically brings in guys, keeps them for 4 years, and they start to see more time in year 3 and year 4, particularly the bigs. I mean, David McCormick backed up Udoka Azubuike. And we saw that pattern for years where the 5 would play, 30 minutes and the backup 5 might pick up 10 or so. And then the next year that kind of flips and a new guy comes under the starting 5's wing. You don't really have that as much with, kind of the motion that we've seen in rosters. So,
Yeah.
Curious to see if Bill Self's group can kind of put all the pieces together in the new era of college basketball that we're in, where everyone has one and dones. I mean, that used to just kind of be like a Kentucky team, but now like most rosters are nearly entirely churning over, particularly in kind of Power 4 conferences. So, and then for K-State, I was just thinking when you said Marquise Noel, that game against Michigan State, what was it now, 3 years ago?
3. Yep.
One of the best college basketball games I've ever
March.
watched.
Yep.
I also wasn't working that day, so I got to just like watch it.
Ooh.
The best. So good. So I miss watching, I miss watching competitive K-State basketball. And, that was a Jerome Tang, that was his first year. So we know what, he's capable of as a coach, and looks like he's got the talent to match. So excited to see them in action, which I guess we will on Friday night, albeit an exhibition game. We'll get a little bit of a glance.
It's a little crazy that they're doing an exhibition with, obviously the K-State Mizzou rivalry isn't as big as KU Mizzou, but it's still kind of a rivalry.
I haven't checked to see if it's like a lot of times KU and Illinois will do those charity fundraisers. I haven't seen that because
they haven't really marketed this at all.
Yeah, our exhibitions were all against D2 teams where we win. I think one of them was like 103-27, because it's an opportunity for D2 schools to play in D1 stadiums, and you get to kind of run through your offenses and look through you have. So that's an interesting one. Friday night, and also 9 o'clock tip is interesting. But that'll give us our first look. It's not as dramatic as an NFL preseason game. You'll see the starters and you'll kind of see what you have, but a mid Big 12 team is going to look a lot different than what we see Friday night. Still, though, excited to see college basketball crossover season.
Yep.
Can't believe we're here.
I know. I know. It's the best time of the year. All right. Before we go, any final closing thoughts?
No, just tomorrow, 11:45. Again, we'll hear from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Friday, same timing. We'll hear from coordinators and Chris Jones. And then Sunday, we'll have Price Chopper Game Day at 10 a.m. You are hosting that, which will be really fun. NFL Today at 11. And then we have the Ravens game at noon and Broncos at 3:25, which would be a good one as well. So a lot to look forward to this week. A lot coming up on KCTV5, and stay tuned in because tis the season of just so much going on.
We love it. All right, thanks for joining us. Have a good one.